Welcome to Upper Pylon 2. Our mission is to provide you with an in-depth review of every episode of DS9 in the order they were broadcast. Tonight's episode is Little Green Men, and this is Matt in Buffalo.
And this is Blair from Ontario, Canada.
This is Chris in South Carolina.
This is Matt from Arizona, and you are cleared for docking. That's right, folks. Tonight we have one of our favorite episodes. I'm not spoiling anything by saying that. It's an amazingly fun episode. Little Green Men to talk about tonight. But first, we do have a big announcement and a little bit of housekeeping we need to take care of. So for that, I'm going to throw it over to Chris.
All right, so unfortunately, because of some life complications, Melissa has chosen to step down from the podcast at this time.
And, from each of us, I would like to say thank you to Melissa for starting this podcast and bringing us all together. So thank you.
And
I have to agree with Blair there. Let me get a clean one. Yeah, I got to agree with Blair there. Thank you, Melissa, and we'll do everything we can to keep good care of the podcast while you're gone.
And Melissa, I wish you all the best. It was an honor to work with you, not only on this show, but for the last 4 years doing the Delta Quadrant. And I wish you well.
We certainly all wish her well, but we're going to keep this podcast moving right along and delivering you the content that we've always delivered. So let's get into this episode, guys.
Yeah, let's get into this episode. Little Green Men. This is the 8th episode of Season 4 of DS9. First aired November 15th, 1995. Actually, let me bring up the notes so I could see who wrote the synopsis this week. That would have been a good thing to do beforehand.
It's all me.
There we go. Okay, our synopsis this week. Some time travel nonsense lands our three Ferengi in 1947 Roswell, New Mexico. As I mentioned, this is the 8th episode of Season 4 and the 78th episode overall of Deep Space Nine. It first aired on November 15th, 1995. It was written by Ira Stephen Bear, Robert Hewitt Wolf, and story by Tony Marbury and Jack Trevino. It was directed by James L. Conway. The guest stars this week include Megan Gallagher as Faith Garland, Charles Napier as Rex Denning, Max Grodenchik as Rom, Aaron Eisenberg as Nog, Connor O'Farrell as Jeff Carlson, and James G. McDonald as Wainwright. So, Matt, I believe you have the notes this week, so whenever you're ready, take us into Little Green Men.
Teaser. Our episode begins in Quark's bar, where they are auctioning off Nog's childhood belongings to send him off into adulthood and Starfleet Academy. These belongings include his PJs, toys, tooth sharpener, stolen property, and most importantly, his adult holodeck programs. Also, a noteworthy event in this teaser is Worf shows a bit of weird racism. And then finally, Quark's ship has finally come in. Literally, he's been gifted a ship by their shifty cousin. I mean, Quark has his own goofy captain's chair and everything. And this ship smells like profit as we break to opening credits.
Doug, you mentioned Worf's racism, but you don't mention Progressive O'Brien.
Oh, yeah, he's immediately
put
in his
empty guy right here, because O'Brien is the least progressive person on this show so far, and he's totally progressive in this scene. Like, hey, man.
But Worf's always been a little bit of a racist. Even on Next Generation, he was a racist. So, I mean, this is no new territory for him. He's very judgmental.
But I thought he pulled off the comedy bit quite well. That little tooth sharpener thing.
Shooptar.
I thought that was good. I laughed out loud when I saw that. Just the way he was, testing it out, and was very pleased with it. So yeah, I thought it was good.
That kind of grossed me out a little bit. Like, the more I thought about it, I was really grossed out by the idea that he's sharpening his teeth with the same thing that Nog sharpened his teeth with for the last who knows how long. Bruh.
All this caked in tooth powder in the thing.
Bruh.
It's like using someone else's toothbrush.
But this episode is like Ferengi at maximum Ferengi. And it starts out right out the gate with just like it's all stolen crap. It's lecherous adult material that some kid basically has. It's just like, could they be any more Ferengis in this episode? The answer is no.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, I think, is that we are well into the DS9 era of Ferengi, and this is the kind of comedy that they come with. And I mean, I've heard other people's podcasts about DS9 and how sometimes this humor doesn't always work for them. I'm a sucker for all of this stuff, though. Give it all to me.
I'll say vast majority of the time I'm with it, and this is certainly it falls into that area where, yeah, this is all working for me very well. Like right out the gate and all through it, it hits all the right notes, totally on point with these characters, and they have like a total firm hand on their characters, and the writing has just the perfect idea what these people should be.
Yeah, and you know what's even better with the Ferengi stories is what they do with it this week and what they do with it in episodes like Magnificent Ferengi, where they try to tie it into a genre or a specific type of work or material that they're referencing. And here, Matt, I imagine you and I are going to have a lot of fun this week because we are strictly in 1940s, 1950s sci-fi B-movie territory.
Yeah, the only way it doesn't quite work in that the title's too long. It should have been Them or Blob or one of those like crazy short titles from those exploitative 1950s movies. But Little Green Men works pretty good too.
I mean, you had stuff like in the 1950s, like Invaders from Mars. That's 3 words. So, I mean, it works.
I just like the exploitative, like bad giant ants movies and that kind of stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, well, that's Them. So, yeah. Go ahead.
I think in this too, and it was something that when I first saw it, at this point we're looking at Wesley Crusher went off to Starfleet Academy, and that was I enjoyed that movie, or I enjoyed that episode. I thought it was well done, and it was a great send off for Wesley, one of probably his best episodes we've seen him in. And I was wondering, how are they going to send Nog off? I know it's not the same degree because Nog was never a main character, but I certainly thought, considering it was 2 of the same ideas of sending somebody off, that this certainly did it in such a way that it was a very memorable episode.
Yeah, and I mean, this is what I like about DS9, and we're going to give a lot of it going forward now. But I mean, some of these secondary cast characters that aren't in the opening credits, they're given just as much importance and just as much reverence as those who are in the opening credits, and sometimes even maybe more so. But no, I think this is a great send-off for Nog, and what a fun episode to well, he's not going out because he's going to come right back, but to go
we didn't know that at the time either, and I was, in some ways, I was very disappointed. I thought, wow, I was really starting to like Nog, and I thought, what are they going to do with him? Is he going to be forgotten? And in reality,
they're just going to have him do his
exactly.
internship.
And this was that was something at the time I never thought of. We just didn't see cadets come back on per se.
Right.
So they really did it well, and I was so pleased when they were still able to incorporate, rather than just have them go away for 4 years or something and then bring them back in season 7.
Right.
I thought they did it well.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step all over you there, but I know that they had never done this sort of second year you go off to intern at some station or some ship, and so that was a great way to bring it back. But we'll get there. I think that's next season. So this is it we're going to see him. We are going to see him in the 2-parter, the 9/11 2-parter coming up.
I will say, and it's by no means a ding against this episode, but I was kind of surprised that we don't get a standalone episode where we get Jake and Nog having one last hijinks centerpiece, maybe a B storyline or something where they get to shine, because that pairing of them was always so big in the first couple seasons. To have it be a very quiet, nice moment, but a very kind of understated moment in this episode. I'm surprised we didn't get a little bit more of a storyline dedicated to that. I mean, to an extent, we get it in The Visitor, but we don't get we're goodbye friend kind of an episode.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I think their moment works. It hits just the right balance, because I feel like the point of Nog's arc up to this point, and they still remind us that he's a Ferengi because we see the sail at the beginning, but I think the point of his arc was that they're trying to show what a stark difference he's been since the first episode when he was pickpocketing and getting into all kinds of trouble and then doing the stuff with Jake. Here he's going off to basically military academy and has a much more mature and keener sense of responsibility. So, I mean, I think the moment as is reflects both his progression and Jake's progression, and I think it works well in that sense.
Yeah,
Sure,
I think we're all glad that they're not putting multicolored changing bugs in people's shorts this episode.
Oh my God.
It's a great
That
place
is
to come
still-
from, but it's not a great place to go back to.
That's still the worst moment in Deep Space Nine history.
See, is it that, or is it
It is
Odo?
not.
It's Odo's conversation with Quark about Keiko and dating, right? I thought that's
That's not the worst either.
Nah, that's
Melora,
bad.
All
but
those
no.
things. Melora, that
Melora.
planet Dax went to, where it was like there are lots of worse things than just funny hijinks.
No, the
Sophomoric hijinks.
This is a well and true tangent now, but those stupid Beatles were the worst because it's the perfect combination of a dumb concept, terrible acting by the extras, and an awful special effect. I mean, it's a trifecta of trash.
Loved it
It's
all.
the worst part of Deep
It was
Space
as
Nine
good
history.
as Bashir being an old man and singing Happy Birthday.
But luckily, we get
Touche.
none of that in this episode because we get a classy, fun, great episode this week.
Matt, take us back the opening credit. Take us past the opening credits.
Act 1. Quark agrees to take Nog to Earth while smuggling, and he leaves Morn in control of the bar. Man, Morn's lips are going to be all cut up, sucking off the taps while Quark is gone. And, Odo is suspicious, rightfully so. Nog and Jake share a nice goodbye. It's a little too short and chopped up with another conversation to warrant a clip, so we just have to keep moving on. And the 3 Ferengi are off. And on the journey, we get the Ferengi hitting Max Ferengi in our first clip.
Here we go.
Sucking off the taps, and you say I'm bad.
Well, that's also a weird Simpsons reference because they let Barney hang out in Moe's bar when Moe left, and his lips were all bleeding because he was just sucking on the beer taps.
Think about it, Uncle.
But there's no good way of saying that other than sucking off the taps.
Leaders of a vast interstellar federation in only 5,000 years. It took us
I'll have a comment after this, I guess.
science, and we had a bywarp technology from 5,000, 10,000. What's the difference? The speed of technological advancement isn't nearly as important as short-term quarterly gains. Can't this thing go any faster?
We're already exceeding the safe maximum cruising speed by 0.2 of a warp factor.
Push it another tenth. This trip is taking long enough as it is.
Relax, brother. I know Kima site is unstable, but another day or two won't make any difference.
What are you talking about?
The shipment of Kima site that you're smuggling in the cargo hold?
Uncle, are you smuggling chemosite? Isn't that dangerous?
Dangerous. And highly profitable, especially if you make a side trip to Orion on the way home from Earth.
What tipped you off?
When I engaged the impulse engines, I noticed the ship's weight distribution was a little off. So the last time you went to waste extraction, I snuck back to the cargo bay and took a look around.
When did you get to be so smart?
Since this is going to come out, I'll just ask it now. Does him going to waste extraction mean when he went to the toilet?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
In everything I saw,
How much?
20% of the profits.
I suppose you'll want to cut too? As a Starfleet cadet, it's my duty to report any violation of Federation law to my superiors immediately. But then again, I haven't been sworn in yet. I'll take 10%. It's a deal. I thought I told you to go faster.
Faster it is.
Yeah, like I said, the Ferengi are hitting peak Ferengi because first off, they hit everything in this one. They're funny. They are Quark's being just an insufferable captain. There's shady business stuff. They all want a taste of the action, and then there's commentary on humans, modern humans in it. I mean, they could not be more on point of what they're supposed to be here.
I mean, I like the fact that we get a little bit of backstory for them because apparently they bought warp technology, and it's like, of course they did, but that's just a fun little thing that they throw in there.
Well, not entirely, because it also turns around and plays into what Quark's plan is later in this episode. So it's not entirely a throwaway thing. It kind of is like a nice little setup to what we have pay off later on too.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying, like, I like that little bit of history. Like, of course, that's how they got warp technology.
Right. So we come back from that clip, and we have a really crazy, great callback to the Bell riots.
Yeah.
And then
that was a seamless reference. That was great.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely loved it.
And then we have some sabotage. It said dang cousin.
Sadly, no Beastie Boys.
No. The ship is going to blow up, but that chemosite can be techno-babbled into a solution. And, well, it kind of works. The ship disappears. And then we see Quark wake on a slab with a U.S. military officer smoking and observing him waking up. He picks up a phone and says, "The Martian is awake." The camera pans down, revealing a calendar showing that it's July 1947. Commercial break.
Yeah, this is great stuff. First of all, I know I've said this on previous shows, but I like it when Deep Space Nine does occasionally stray into technobabble territory, because they always do it in a way that's either more self-explanatory than some of the other shows, or something like this where they make fun of it. Yeah. Because at this point, I mean, Voyager's on the air, and Voyager is in the second season, and Voyager, I'm sorry, as much as I do appreciate the show, is nothing but endless technobabble that just sounds more ridiculous as the show goes on. So the fact that these writers are self-aware enough to have Quark say, "I have no idea what you're talking about, just do whatever it is you said," to me, that's fantastic. That's my favorite kind of humor.
And we get a quick glimpse too of Rom's abilities that we're all kind of looking at him like, where did this come from?
Yeah, well, it's starting his arc too, because that's going to come later this season, and he's an idiot savant apparently.
He has a great line at one point where it's like Quark asks him, when did you become so smart? And he just responds, "I've always been smart. I've just lacked confidence."
Self-confidence.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I'll take that.
These actors, though, I gotta say, like, I mean, and this goes throughout the whole episode, but especially it's highlighted here in the shuttle ride to Earth. They have such great chemistry together. Like, they were lucky to get these three to be like the main Ferengi family of the show.
And what did you guys think of the whole gift that O'Brien and Bashir gave Nog? You know, kind of a
He gave him Wikipedia.
Yeah, Wikipedia, essentially. Yeah, you know, a traveler's guide. You know, it was something small, but it was certainly something that we would all do nowadays. We would all have our phones out or our tablets out if going somewhere, looking up something that we saw, or if we didn't know something, we'd be quickly pulling it up. So, you know, certainly.
I'm pretty sure that they hit a traveler's guide to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy deep in there. And that's all that he really needs for life. Get that boy a
babel fish.
Get that boy a towel. They definitely needed that this week.
Yeah, I mean, it's too much to hope for that "Don't Panic" was written on the back of the pad in big friendly letters. But I mean, it's really a thoughtful gift to him, because if you put yourself in Nog's shoes, he's going to a world that's completely different, and they've shown endlessly, and in this episode, people hate the Ferengi, and it's like, as much as the Federation talks about all that acceptance and all that stuff,
they're a bunch of racists sometimes. Yeah,
it does not hold for them. So you can completely see him having a really rough time and bad adjustment there. I mean, they downplay it. I would have loved to have seen somebody talk about that a little bit more when he does pop back, talking about how he was the odd man out, nobody wanted to eat with him and all that kind of stuff. But you know.
Well, I think we do get a small reference to it in Homefront in a few episodes from now, about how he did want to be accepted, and Red Squad was his way of doing it. But that's later down the line. But you're absolutely right. I think several more references about being the guy sitting, you know, in the mess hall all by himself, and that.
Well, there might be a reference in that Red Squad episode, but I'm so annoyed by all those jerk-offs.
I hate that
remember.
episode so much.
I can't remember anything.
I hate that
by the rage.
I hate that episode so much because of those people. I can't. That's going to be a fun one to record when we get there.
5 stars, baby.
Ugh. It's 5 stars when they all die.
I was going to say, yeah. So let's get into the meat and potatoes part of the episode. In Act 2, when we come back, if you can manage to look through the sheets of cigarette smoke, we have a bunch of military personnel observing the Ferengi through a window, including a dirty space hippie who finally got a haircut. The cover story is going to be that this is a weather balloon, and, it crashed in Roswell, New Mexico. They listen in, and we get some good Ferengi language gibberish, and in comes a professor to try and communicate. And we get a refreshing, different kind of door sound effect to kick off our clips here this week. And just to note, there's some physical comedy in this clip. The slapping sound you hear is them hitting their heads.
When we come out of the clip, Chris, do you want to lead us off? You haven't said a whole lot so far, and comment on it.
I'm good.
Okay.
Keep reading.
Okay.
I can talk about I've been to Roswell, New Mexico, and it's a shithole.
Sure.
I don't know. That might not be a good idea.
Well, maybe a good comment is like so many sci-fi, shows touch on Area 51, right? So,
She may be honest.
and DS9 is no different.
What are they doing?
I can make a comment to that effect.
Broken too.
No, they don't have universal translators.
Just trying to do this Kieran thing.
Uniforms for my God.
Flabbergasting.
20th century.
The 20th century. You mean we traveled back through time?
More than 400.
Just only a couple lines, Chris. Only a couple lines.
One of the old nation states, Australia or something.
So if they don't have the universal translators, then why are they banging their heads?
They're just mimicking us. Brick up tall, up true. Kilo homeboy?
I swear to God, he says homeboy in that clip.
It's Kilo Homeboy.
I'd always heard primitive humans lacked intelligence, but I had no idea they were this stupid. They weren't just stupid. They were violent, petty, bigoted, and selfish.
And we're stuck here with them. Maybe for the rest of our lives.
The three of us and millions of primitive humans. I like those odds.
Man, we get a comedy music sting and everything at the end of that clip.
Yeah, and who knew that the Ferengi were such gangstas? Because apparently homeboy is a Ferengi word.
Yeah, he absolutely says, Kilo Homeboy in that clip.
It's something that I've always heard ever since I watched this episode for the first time. It's always made me laugh. But real quick, because it's something that I'm dying to talk about, and I mean, I don't know if you or Blair or Chris are familiar with the tropes of movies as much as Matt and myself seem to be, but Matt, we are in firm B-movie territory here, and I went back to so many films, but just like with the archetypes, and especially everybody smoking all the time, like it made me think of not the remake that we love, but have you ever seen the original Thing from Another World?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, funny you mentioned that. I have that's an immensely easy movie to pick quotes from for my final sign off. Yeah, it's a great movie too.
Yeah, but it takes me right back to that aesthetic, and it's something that I think they mine for everything that it's worth. And it's like the when we talked about that season 2 episode, Necessary Evil, where they decided to go with a film noir. I just like when they adapt different genres of film, so it's fun.
Yeah, the movie cliche that I kind of just fixated on is that there always seems to be the professor from the university or whoever that shows up to try to be the explainer of everything, just the exposition data dump person to the audience. And of course, we have that guy here.
Right.
He doesn't quite have to serve that function, but the fact that they have the professor and then the general, and it's just like,
and I hate to say it, but they always have, not always a nurse, but they always have the woman.
There's one part that comes up that I absolutely love, because I read a lot of science fiction from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and even later than that. And it's interesting going back and looking with a historical eye at just how they treat women characters in those. And it's really interesting to look at it, because they do it in this episode too, and it's not super obvious, but they have her refer to, like, she's like the dreamer looking out into space and like having all these great ideas, and the professor guy is like, it's not really harsh, but he's like, oh girl, and they start talking about their wedding and you're just the dreamer, and he's like immensely dismissive of her kind of aspirational things. And you see that all the time in these old science fiction stories of a scientist woman giving up her career to marry the hero of the story and stuff. And you get like a little hint of that here. And I really like that. Not how they're treating women, but it's like a perfect reference to what you see in these things.
I felt it was a good enough reference without being like terribly insulting. You know what I mean? Like, because
right.
I mean, she's not as, I mean, I've seen a lot of those films, obviously. She's not treated nearly as bad as some of the female characters in those films. I mean, at least here she has a rank.
Yeah, and she doesn't faint and have to get slapped at some point
right.
when she sees the monstrous aliens.
And then you normally have your hard-ass general or something, usually, or the military paranoid aspect. If I'm not wrong, you watch them far more than I do.
Oh, for sure. And in this case, we have two, and one of them is Charles Napier, who is a character actor that I love. I mean, I mostly remember him for Silence of the Lambs, but he's been in so much stuff.
Yeah, including the
Star Trek.
Tijuana. Yeah, the Tijuana.
Yeah, that another terrible episode, the hippie one.
What was it? Something to Eden?
The Way to Eden.
Way to Eden, yes.
And he's the musical guy. He's my least favorite in that episode.
I don't know. The guy with the ears is pretty awful too.
Well, they're all
awful.
They all
we
sucked.
kidding?
Yeah.
But speaking of the cliches, this one definitely is hitting familiar ground when it comes to genre stuff. It seems like every show has to come up with some explanation for Roswell. And I can tell you, this is immensely more satisfying than anything we were ever given in, like, X-Files, for instance. Like, yeah, I'll take this over all that convoluted garbage in X-Files any day.
Yeah, I think that the important thing here is that aside from the time travel stuff, which is always going to be complicated no matter how you do it, they do keep the story pretty simplistic. And of course, they're taking a kind of a cliche thing where they're the cause of X event in history, but at least it does so in a way that I find quote unquote believable.
Well, you even hear Nog say, we have to be careful. We could alter the timeline, and it just gets brushed off because we know realistically it's not going to alter the timeline. And we already saw just that little clip from the Bell riots.
Right,
and we've seen it happen, but
yeah, but I mean, we know
we don't take it serious here. We know there's going to be absolutely no impact on it, so you can have fun, and you're not worried about changing anything here. We're just here for the ride. We're having a great time. We're laughing. The smoking is just hilarious. They're hitting all the right notes where people aren't going. Well, at least I would hope people aren't going to sit back and start nitpicking how. They couldn't have done this because in reality, this happened in real life. This is just fun.
Yeah, but in reality, those people that say that kind of stuff, they're exhausting anyway. So who wants to have a conversation with that guy?
So please leave all comments on the forum.
To me. Twitter me. I'll respond.
But I think your point is well taken, though. I mean, if we're going to have a timeline-altering episode, it's not going to be this silly little Ferengi one-off. It's going to be something like past tense. No, I think the stakes are just right, and the storytelling and the tone are pitch perfect. So I think it allows most non-discerning viewers to go along with the ride.
Act 3. Act 3 begins with Quark having an absolutely hilarious, dirty Star Trek joke referencing Umox not being translated. That was...
We all know
it might be the best part of the episode, yeah.
Oh no, the best part is when Nog asks for.
When Nog asks for and gets a little HJ action,
and then his dad says, "Hey," that was hilarious.
Oh, well, I like the subtle Umox joke, and just the way he delivered it was just like, "Oh, you scumbag!"
No, it's still in Ferengi, but we know exactly what he's saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a plan is hatched to reset the magical universal communicators. I do like and I appreciate how they don't even bother to explain it. Quark says, "Well, it's very easy if you understand it." And it's just drop it, who cares? It's just the magic that we all have to just take in Star Trek. Who cares? Let's move on. And we do get quite a bit of easy commentary on smoking and atomic bombs, the two messages in this episode, if you will. The female officer talks about space exploration, and the man kind of dismisses that. And we drop some information about Niagara Falls here. And let me just add, please go to the Canadian side. The U.S. side is a hellhole.
Woo-hoo.
And yes, Canada wins on this one, Blair. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And the damned general space hippie wants some progress. And they are called in to speak to Quark, who now suddenly speaks fluent English, and he has a proposition for them, a business proposition, as we go to commercial break. So, I mean, this is where they really hammer it home if you missed it. Smoking is stupid. I mean, it's like, man, you pick a pretty easy commentary to go after there, but,
yeah, but at the same time,
fine.
You want them going after a serious allegory in this. I would rather have it be this silly little tobacco commentary.
But none of us smoke here, I don't think, on this show. But it'd be interesting to see what those hardcore smokers thought about this. And
well, it's an easy target because even in my experience, people who smoke are,
they're well aware that
it's not so good. Yeah. I mean, this isn't the 50s where 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Marlboro. We all know it's bad for you. You're just addicted to it, and it's like, well, I'm doing it.
So it is. Like, if they're trying to duplicate the feel of those films, everybody's lighting up in those films. So it would have been out of place if it wasn't here.
True. No, but I like it how they just the three Ferengis are just talking to just the way they talk about it. They just honestly can't understand just the way they explain it. And
no, but what I like about that is they turn it around and make it part of the story for them again. It's like, well, God, if they're willing to poison themselves, we can sell them anything.
Yeah,
exactly. One of my favorite lines in this whole episode.
So are we to take it that beetle snuff is not a parallel to tobacco stuff? Because it seems like they have a similar product. So it shouldn't come as that big of a shock to them. Yeah, well, all right.
I assume beetle snuff is not toxic.
Well, it's and
Not
who
that we
knows?
know of.
I mean, I didn't take beetle snuff as tobacco. I took more of a little bit of coke.
Cocaine. Yeah.
Snuff
that's what I took it as.
Is tobacco, though. Snuff is a tobacco product.
Okay, I mean, we're good if it's just cocaine and not.
Yeah. Don't worry about your heart giving out on you or anything like that.
And your sinus is eroding away, but it is funny. Well, I look at that parallel, but I think the other hilarious thing, and I'm like, I'm not entirely sure if it's meant to be just like as ironic as it came across, but when Nog is like speaking of the primitive humans, he says that they're bigoted, self-centered, and something else. And I'm like, checkmark Ferengi, checkmark Ferengi, checkmark Ferengi. I mean, like, it's funny that he's calling them out while describing the aliens who are supposed to be these people.
But that's
it's
why
weird mind bending. Like, that's really weird what they're doing, but it's funny.
But that's why the writing is so good, because that line is immediately followed up by Quark with like, yeah, these are humans that I understand.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Classic stuff. This is great.
So I mean, all the stuff that they're doing, I think, is excusable and cleverly written. So
the one part that I totally don't understand is if you go onto Memory Alpha, they have commentary by Ira Stephen Bear about the messages concerning atomic bombs in this movie, and it talks about how he I don't think he was all that pleased with the smoking commentary in it, but whatever. It is what it is. We don't really mind it. But he cited the atomic bomb stuff. I think he was kind of proud about, because he cited True Lies, which came out not too long before this. And
Really?
yeah, and he says how revolted he was at the depiction of atomic bombs in that. Namingly, specifically, the kiss between Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis in front of the atomic bomb. And he's like, he hated that such a destructive thing is being shown with like kissing and just really trivializing it. And he wanted to take what they did in that, take us to such a crazy extent to make an atomic bomb be the solution to our heroes' problems here. And that will like take that commentary out to an absurd end and make some great commentary on atomic bombs in fiction. And I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
I love you, Irish Stephen Bear, but yeah, I think it's a chuckle at best that they use an atomic bomb to get home. I mean, I do like that. It's funny, but I didn't get that impression. And just on a personal note, I totally disagree with him about True Lies. I love everything about that movie.
Absolutely.
One of the best Tom Arnold movies I've ever seen him in.
Probably the best.
I was going to say.
Yeah, the best. The only.
The Stupids.
God, let's not. So where are we in the story exactly? Because I forget.
I think they're working on the communicators.
They just got communication back.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The next act opens up with a clip where Quark is going to talk to Napier about his business proposition.
Okay.
I don't see any universal translator.
Trust me, it's in there.
So this gadget of yours is what makes it possible for us to understand each other? How's it work?
It's
I love his voice for some reason. It's just really interesting.
These are the kind of things you can do with the right technology. Which is why I'm here.
I was wondering about that.
I've been sent by my people to open up a market for advanced Ferengi technology.
What kind of technology are you talking about?
How would you like to travel beyond the stars at speeds you never even dreamt were possible? Or to transport yourselves from one place to another in the blink of an eye?
You know how to do that?
That's only the beginning. We can give you the medical knowledge to cure your deadliest diseases. We have machines that can produce food and clothing out of thin air.
What about weapons?
Weapons? If you want weapons, I'm the man to see. We can teach you to make phasers, disruptors, proton torpedoes, or even quantum torpedoes. A little more expensive, but worth it.
What do you want in return?
That depends. What do you use for currency around here? Platinum? Dilithium?
We use dollars.
Dollars? Never heard of it. Don't you have any gemstones or precious minerals?
You mean like gold?
Gold is good.
How much gold are we talking about?
Seeing how we're going to be advancing your culture about 400 years overnight, I'd say a couple of million bars would be about right. As a good faith deposit.
You know, Quark, you might be some kind of Martian.
Ferengi.
Whatever. But the more we talk, the more you remind me of my brother-in-law.
Is he a businessman?
He's a car salesman and not a very good one.
And he's nothing like me.
Bottom line is, I don't trust him, and I don't trust you. So before we sit down and sign any contracts, you are going to tell me just what the hell you people are really doing here.
I just told you we're here to open up trade negotiations. If you're not interested, just say so. I'm sure I can do business with one of your planet's other nation states.
In other words, if we don't play ball, you're going to sell these advanced weapons of yours to the Russians.
I'd rather it didn't come to that. To be honest, I'd much rather work with you Australians.
Americans.
Whatever. But if you won't do business with me, and the Russians will, who am I to say no?
I'm not saying we can't do business, but I don't have the authority to make this kind of decision. I'll have to get, I'll have to get clearance from the president.
I can wait. In the meantime, let me give you some free advice just to show you I'm on your side. You people should take better care of yourselves. Stop poisoning your bodies with tobacco and atom bombs. Sooner or later, that kind of stuff will kill you.
What do you know about atom bombs?
My people have been watching your world for years. We know all about you. Baseball, root beer, darts, atom bombs. It's quite a fascinating culture you humans have here. And with a little Ferengi technology, it could be even better. Now, why don't you go talk to that president of yours?
Man, the pacing of that conversation and the banter back and forth was just really on point. Just
Very much
really
so.
hilarious all the way through.
And it's good they got someone like you were saying during the clip. I love Charles Napier and the guy's voice and his demeanor. These were the kind of roles he was playing in the 90s, and he's perfect for this kind of part.
Yeah, the best exchange in there is him calling a Martian and then for Quark getting indignant at it and then coming back a little later on doing the exact same thing back to him.
Well,
The
the
Australians.
Well, and the whole car salesman thing, I love. That was good. That was good. Yeah, I mean, like, there's not a whole lot to say and break down other than the fact that this is sharp comedy writing that also manages to feel very Star Trek. So, you know, it reminds me of some of those hokey episodes of the original series where they went back in time to like the 60s or whatever. But here it's done with tongue firmly in cheek.
And it wasn't wasteful banter either. It wasn't just discussion for the sake of killing time. It was good. It was funny, and it helped proceed the move the plot forward with regards to the negotiations, I guess you could say.
Right. But my favorite part is still coming up, where we get joined by a fourth member of the crew and the torture scene. The torture scene by far is my favorite part of this episode.
Well, speaking of that, Quark returns to the other Ferengi, namely Nog, getting some really dirty stuff done to him by the female officer.
God.
Then the humans leave, and as they leave, turns out Odo had tagged along this entire time. There was this dog roaming around in the episode. He was the dog. He calls out Quark on the smuggling and points out that their ship is just fine. It's in a hangar just over there. And a plan is hatched to return back to their correct time. They just need an atomic bomb. Quark wants to stay and take advantage of the dumb humans, and then to go to the Ferengi of this time and then advance their technology 400 years in advance as well, launching the Ferengi into the power of the quadrant. And by the way, if you notice when he's giving this speech, they screwed up horribly with the lighting. Quark's makeup is atrocious. Something they did with it showed every seam in his makeup and the paint. You could see where the prostheses were put on. It was really weird.
I'm curious, how are you watching this? Because I watched it on Netflix and on my phone, so I didn't really notice anything.
I watched it on Netflix on a full-size, 40 whatever inch TV, and I'm telling you, go back and watch. It's all three of the Ferengi actors. In the lighting in this scene, it's just something went wrong where it just showed it's just horrible.
A ton of fluorescence, right? Nothing looks good in fluorescent lighting.
Right. It was weird. It just popped out because they always have a part of their makeup that dips low into their cheek.
Yeah,
and you can just flat out see the line going around it. It was really weird. I mean, not taking away anything in the episode. It was just a weird technical screw up you catch every once in a while.
I have never noticed.
Now, did anyone figure that the dog was Odo at any point? I know my first watch, totally didn't see that coming.
But considering that this is a Ferengi episode, I'm thrilled that he's here.
Absolutely.
Indeed.
Looking back on it, it's completely obvious. But first time for me, I was like, oh wow, that's good. This is gonna get interesting now. Odo's stuck in the same boat.
It does raise a million questions, for me at least, because I'm a jerk like that in some ways. But he can perfectly, imitate a dog with a billion hairs on it, but he can't make a human face. Come on.
I thought the same thing, but
It's the curvature of the nose.
It's really tricky.
You've seen this before. He was a rat, the second episode of the series.
I know, a million questions. Well, we haven't had one of those, what is a changeling question in a while, so...
Yeah. Oh, not this again.
Pretty exhausted by it all.
Oh, infinite potential for me. Anyhow,
but
to close.
Sorry, Matt, just before you go on.
Okay.
The thing I liked about this, he didn't take over the story. This was still really a Ferengi story. Yeah, he's in there now. He helped along, but we still continue to. We didn't change the scene to see what Odo's doing in the background. We still focused on the Ferengi, and that's what I really liked.
Because you kind of need, I mean, ultimately Quark does run away, but you kind of think, well, this will be the reason that Quark does give up on this plan of his and go back. And it's a neat little misdirection that, no, he actually isn't really the reason he gives up and goes back. It's that the humans turn out to be pretty nasty towards him. And he throws in the towel and that. So it's like, oh, okay, I can play this out how this is going to go. Odo's going to put him in a headlock and bring him back. And it's a fun little misdirect.
Right. That being said, though, I know we're going to get to the torture scene, and can I just say I know you like putting strict caps on clips, but I'm sad this scene is not a clip.
The reason I didn't because Rom was shrieking too much in it for me.
But he's not even the best part. The best part is when Quark gets the needle stuck in him. I laugh constantly at that part. I think I rewound it like 5 times.
Yes, there's a lot of shrieking actually from multiple people in the clip coming up. So why don't we go right into it? The end Act 4, well, the humans don't believe Quark's story, so it's torturing time. We go to Act 5 and let's start the torturing. Turns out the Ferengi are not susceptible to sodium pentothal. Go figure. Quark doesn't crack under interrogation, but that incredibly loud snap you probably heard, well, that was Rom cracking. He sure does. And he tells the absolute truth. But the truth isn't what the truth the humans want to hear. So Nog tells them that an impending invasion is on the way. Now that's what they really wanted to hear. Now remember, another lesson in here, smoking is bad, atomic bombs are dumb. Well, the military is dumb in these old science fiction movies too.
Yeah, they are. They always are.
Yeah. That's just another cliche that you see in movies up till now. It kind of annoys me. I'm curious, Blair, does that always drive you nuts in a movie when they just make military guy the hothead that progresses the situation to violence?
Yeah, but if it's an older movie, you can look past it. Nowadays, I wouldn't expect that type of I don't like how it's portrayed nowadays in several movies.
So Nog uses this pointing at maps, namely Cleveland. Yeah, by all means, let the invasion happen there.
Yes, please.
He
Poor
uses
LeBron.
This. Oh, the Browns. Yeah, they'd welcome a destruction. But he uses this. He uses this map as a means of distraction. And the human scientist and female officer pitch in to help you escape. And eventually, Odo too. The ship leaves and they enter an atomic bomb test that actually did not happen around this time. Actually, I looked this up. They had testing very quick, right around this time, but over in the Bikini Atolls, not over in the desert, whatever, 1-star episode. And lo and behold, it successfully works. They end up back home. Nog is dropped off on Earth. Rom and Quark make it back to the station after selling their ship for bus fare home. And Quark is taken off to a holding cell to answer for his smuggling as we break the end credits.
Yeah, the end pretty much happens in quick succession, but yeah, the whole torture scene and the screaming and the shrieking that apparently drove you nuts is my favorite part of this episode, just because everyone's reached peak them status. I mean, like it's just like everything's over the top, but it's over the top in the best possible way.
And it's like such silly stuff, but sitting there watching, I'm like, oh, why is he shrieking so much with a little injection? I'm like, wait, hold on.
You kidding me?
No, but I mean, this is like silly because it works so well. They live in a universe where they've only ever gotten painless hyperspace. So even like, oh, come on. Oh, no, wait. Okay, that makes sense. So it's like even the goofy things has like an inherent internal logic that makes sense.
And a reusable needle at that, probably.
Plus, I mean,
it's true.
I mean, you mean I live in a society where I get like shots and blood drawn, and I still don't like it. So I mean, come on, it's not
Oh
that.
no, I'm one of those weirdos that looks at the needle when they're doing blood
Oh,
draws or something.
I always have to do. I always look at it. That doesn't mean I like it, though.
And I offer to do it myself if they can't get it on me. So that usually doesn't go over well.
Blair, the true professional. Just let me do it.
And if you haven't had to get, I just say this: if you haven't had to get an IV put in when you're dehydrated from the stomach flu, you haven't lived.
Oh, been there, done that. But another nice thing I like right near the end, and this is just proves how far Deep Space Nine goes. If this was season 1, we'd all be shaking our heads thinking, Quark again, he's screwing up their, is he a criminal? Is he not? Here they almost make fun of it. He's like, yeah, I don't have anything left. You can take me away. But we know it's not serious consequences. Whereas earlier episodes with some of the other stuff he's got into, you really sat there. And I forget which episode it was where we all thought, man, the senior staff should be pissed at him.
Well, it was when he let the people come on board for Dax's symbiont.
Right.
Yeah, a bunch of mercenaries.
Yeah, whereas here, I think we all kind of laugh about it because we know that there's no proof, there's nothing. I don't know, just the way they ended it, it's a totally different tone now. Quark is doing his schemes, but it's different if he gets caught now, and we know we don't expect severe repercussions like we would have in season 1 or 2. So I like that.
Well, to be fair, in seasons 1 and 2, he almost got people murdered and kidnapped. In this one, he was just trying to sell some contraband. I think,
but back in 1947.
The American spirit is, there's a little bit of rebellion there, but I don't think murder and kidnapping and all that, that's not on our docket of things we love.
But so I'm good with the. Normally, I guess I would be bothered in other episodes about how they get back, but because this is this episode, it really doesn't matter that much. And I love the whole tell your brother everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's always a certain amount of eye rolling for any time travel episode. It's like, okay, let's just get him home. And this is like as satisfying as any of them.
Is.
It's fine. Yeah.
I think it would have been worse had they had we spent 10 minutes of technobabble and trying to, like you would see in Voyager or anything else, trying to get back. You know what? They got back. We don't care how they got back. Because that's
I mean, why not have it be something ridiculous like this? Because I would hate watching them try to like prepare calculations to go around the sun. You know what I mean? It's just...
Yeah.
Oh, but we would have got that awesome 3D heads of the three Ferengi.
Yeah, I was going to say, what would that would have looked like in their minds?
It would have looked awesome, I'm sure.
Odo could have been in his bucket or something.
They wouldn't have been picturing a whale, though. I wonder what they would have been picturing.
This episode was also missing the Thelma and Louise like going off. Like, come on, have the Ferengi grab hands as they go into the atomic bomb at the end.
It's fine though. I mean, and it has one of the. I like the ending tag where he gets hauled off to jail and see you in a few weeks, brother.
Yeah. And he says he'll get Cousin Galen to bail him out. Hilarious.
Oh, this is just a ton of fun, this episode. So I think we're coming to the end here. So we're going to go to final thoughts and ratings. Unless that was the end of your notes, right, Matt?
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
I think we've rung this episode for everything it's worth.
Yes, I think we have. So we're going to go into final thoughts and ratings. So Blair, why don't you go first? What are your final thoughts and ratings for Little Green Men?
Well, I think as you can tell just from our conversation, I think we all really had fun in this episode. This episode is certainly one that brings a smile to my face when I know it's next up on the schedule. I don't even have any real nitpicks. It was just so much fun. I'm willing to look past everything. I laughed out loud in several moments. It was a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff. It was a time travel one. I love time travel ones. But yet I wasn't worried about the implications of this time travel. It was just, I was going along for the ride. They had 3 great Ferengi actors working so well together. This, to me, is a complete 5.0 Area 51 conspiracy theory episode.
Very good, Blair. Chris, why don't you go next?
Sure thing. I don't have a whole lot to add. Obviously, this is a great episode. We all gushed over it. We laughed. We cried. It was amazing. And I'm going to give this, well, my notes will pull up. I'll give it something. I'm going to give this 5 out of 5 greedy Galens garishly gifting great gadgets. Amen.
Thank you for the wonderful alliteration, as always. Matt, you go next.
So this is like where the episodes are firmly in the I don't understand why people don't like Ferengi episodes. How can you get really annoyed by this? Because this is good comedy, well, and, you know, in all of our opinions, just good, solid comedy all throughout. And then on top of that, they made a stylistic decision to not really hammer it home all over the place, but they hit it in enough places where somebody who's read a lot of 40s, 50s science fiction or watched a bunch of 50s science fiction, you kind of recognize all these stylistic things, caricatures, and you really appreciate all of it. I mean, the smoking, I'm so glad that they allowed them to smoke on this. I wouldn't be surprised today if you had a network show, they wouldn't let you have characters openly smoke nonstop through the whole thing. I like that.
You can't these days.
Right.
At all.
Because it works so well. One of my favorite book series is the Lensman series, and it's written in like 1939 to 1944 or so. And the books are literally just white guys in suits around desks, smoking nonstop, talking about space battles. And it's like, it's such an interesting window to look back at the sensibilities at the time. And we get that in this episode. I think this is absolutely a 5-star episode. It's a little funny giving it the same score of like something that's so different in so many different ways, like The Visitor. But hey, that's the weirdness of the 5-star episodes. It's a great one, but for all sorts of different reasons.
Yeah, I think things can be 5 stars without necessarily equaling the same thing. They're 5 stars in their own rights. And on that note, I'm going to make it a unanimous ruling this week, and also give this episode 5 stars. It's by far one of my favorite comedy episodes of the series. I think that the comedy is sharp. The chemistry between the actors, including our guests, are perfect. And again, for me, being a fan of old sci-fi, I just find the use of the tropes and the integration of the cliches very well done. It's an episode that I have zero problems with. I mean, even the problems that I could have with it, like the time travel mechanism, really don't bother me that much, because that's not the point. The point is just to have a good, fun time, and that's what Little Green Men is. So 5 stars all around.
Which, you know, damn you, Blair. It's better average than The Visitor, because you couldn't give that extra half star. It's like, I want The Visitor to be at least as good as this in the score, but you killed it. You killed it, man.
And with that said, that wraps it up for Little Green Men this week. How do you guys want to do the feedback? Do you want me to just throw it over to you three and then talk about it? Okay, sounds good. So that does it for Little Green Men this week. And now we're going to take some of your comments from our episode on indiscretion from a few weeks ago. So I believe you guys have some of the stuff pulled up.
Yeah, so we're going to do feedback a little differently now. We find us, obviously, due to our schedules and recording, we feel that the best way to do it now is just to kind of review some of the comments made on the forum within the episode, and that we encourage everyone to go to the forums and carry on the discussion there. We're going to make a concerted effort to respond to your posts within the forum and start the discussion over there. There's a lot of great people on the forums that are bringing up some really, really valuable and great points. And I think, we can't do it justice just reading the forum posts every week. So we encourage everyone to go on there, get engaged with the posts, and or email us, and let's just start conversing back and forth, because there's really some great ideas and valuable opinions out there. So just to start off, for our we had a post from Dan Hitch, and Dan's becoming a regular now, and we thank him for that. And he kind of commented several good points on indiscretion, and he was very happy that it just didn't focus on a Bajoran orphanage story like the Cardassian episode did. But he did find, though, throughout the episode, it just wasn't really building the tension that he would have liked to have seen. And he wished that ultimately they spent a little more time focusing on the prison break. He did feel that it was kind of a rush to the finish, and they could have really spent more time on the prison break and bring up the value and the whole, I guess, decision-making process, and just focus more on that. So if you want to read more on what Dan said, please whip over to the forums there and read what he said. He brought up a lot of other points, but those are kind of the points that we wanted to bring up tonight.
And while we're on the forum, I think we'd be remiss to not mention Kieran McDuff, who has been our principal commenter for as long as we've been a show. And I just want to say this to start off with, Kieran. Yes, we did crack the code. And thank you for always paying the proper homage to our show. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't me that cracked whatever code you were talking about. It's probably Smonsky or Hansen, because they're the smart guys. But we cracked it, and thank you for paying us respect. Also, love the history bit you talked about there, that trivia about it probably not being Hitler. I think I agree with you there, and that it is an apt comparison, and I would love to dig more into it with you, and I'll probably do that on the forums here soon. So great feedback as always, man. Thanks.
And off to emails. I try to always respond to everybody within a couple days, and happy to carry on the conversations there. And we have a frequent emailer, Zubair, came through with, as always, a very interesting point. Again, we talked a lot about the historical comparisons of the Cardassian occupation, and the easy one to always bring up is the World War II parallels, and we talked about that. But as history has a habit of repeating itself over and over again, Zubair brought up a very good point in that he mentioned that another good comparison that he thought of was that in the 1930s, Mao Zedong was interviewed and asked whether he thought the French Revolution back in the 1790s was a net benefit for the world. And his response, well, it's still too early to tell. And I think that's a very good point. And he just talks about how, being so shortly removed from the occupation of Deep Space Nine, it's hard to gauge what the effects are at all, let alone if they are net benefits. So Zubair just coming through again, talking about how these episodes, oftentimes we can only even touch upon, a couple points of their commentary. So again, thank you, Zubair, and I'm looking forward to responding to any email that we get regarding these episodes.
For sure. And we still encourage feedback as always. And there are many ways to get a hold of us. You can email us at up2podcast@gmail.com. You can tweet us at up2podcast. You can like us on Facebook at facebook.com/upperpylon2. Also, too, we appreciate any 5-star iTunes reviews. They really do get the word out about the show and help other people find us. So if you could leave us a 5-star review, that would be fantastic. And you can reach all of the hosts personally on Twitter. Myself, you can reach me at mhansen0207, HANSEN, talking Star Trek, talking Marvel, talking Rogue One, because that just came out. So actually, I won't be talking Rogue One. I'll give people a grace period, and then I'll start talking about it. But I'll be there for Rogue One discussion. So mhansen0207.
And I can be found at ProSub0 if you want to talk about how awesome the Muppets family Christmas special was. I mean, come on, the Muppets, Fraggle Rock, and Sesame Street all together in one special. It's all you need for a Christmas special. And Merry Christmas, because I think this episode's coming out right around
Oh,
that
yes,
time.
that's true. Merry Christmas for those who celebrate.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy Hanukkah.
There's a war on Christmas on the podcast.
Happy winter solstice.
Oh, representing the pagans. Thank you, Matt.
And where can you two be reached?
I can be found at Medic1849, where probably tweeting a little bit about hockey. And Alan Thicke passed away. Good Canadian actor, I guess you could say, from Growing Pains.
Canadian treasure, Alan Thicke.
Yes, and big hockey fan. So I can. That's where I can be found. And again, Merry Christmas to everyone.
I heard something this week, Blair. Alan Thicke wrote the Facts of Life theme song.
Yeah.
He was
He's a damn saint. That's the most awesome song. So yeah, I won't be talking about Alan Thicke on my Twitter, but you can find me there. I don't post much, but yeah,
at Carnivore J.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us this week. It really was a fun discussion on Little Green Men, and we'll be back next week with The Sword of Kalis.
Before we do that, Matt, did we want to say we are taking a break?
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Okay, so you want to redo that one again?
Yes.
Okay.
So thank you so much for joining us for this discussion on Little Green Men. We hope it was a nice pre-Christmas holiday treat for you as much as it was for us. And speaking of Christmas, it is happening in this next week. So we are going to take a break from recording. So you will next see us in the new year. You'll see us in the new year. So we'll be back in 2017 with The Sword of Kalis as the next episode. So we will see you all then.
So this is Blair from Ontario, Canada. Have a very Merry Christmas and hope Santa's good to you.
Listen, Three Eyes, don't you try to out-weird me. I get stranger things than you free with my breakfast cereal. This is Chris in South Carolina.
I'm Matt in Buffalo, an intellectual carrot. The mind boggles.
And this is Matt from Arizona, closing hailing frequencies, wishing everybody happy holidays, setting a course for 2017. Docking clamps are open and you are cleared for departure.